Hey, welcome to The Perspective Today. My name is Mike Sherbino. I'm just delighted to be here talking to you wherever you are, probably in your living room, maybe watching off your phone or tablet, but wherever, it's good to see you. And I hope you're feeling the same way about me. But at any time, you can call us on our toll-free number if you have questions, would like someone to pray with you. Here at The Perspective, we believe in the power of prayer to talk to people and to point them in a direction where they will find their true north. And that true north is none else than discovering the life-transforming power of Jesus Christ. So we're so happy that you're with us today. And then I also just want to take a moment right at the top of the show to let you know later on, I'll be doing some Bible teaching, and every day you can have a copy. You can know it's coming down the pipe by going online to perspective.tv, and you can get a copy of our daily devotional for your best gift of $5 or more. So we hope you'll partner with us in that whole journey. You know, as we talk about partners, to even produce a program like this, we have people who support us, who help us, people working in the studio today who are working behind the scenes to make things happen. And today, I want to introduce you to an amazing organization. It's called Stewards. What does that mean? Well, we're going to learn about it in a moment, but they're doing so many cool things behind the scenes to help the cause of Jesus Christ go further through churches, through organizations, as they provide amazing funding for them. Hey, I want you to watch this video clip, and then we're going to come back with a fascinating interview with Joy.
At Stewards Canada, we're passionate about making a lasting impact for God's kingdom. For over 70 years, we've empowered churches and assemblies across Canada by providing financing for their growth and ministry. Many churches find it challenging to secure capital funding through traditional banks, but Stewards Canada could be the partner they've been searching for. We offer tailored mortgage solutions that help churches build, expand, and impact their communities. For Christian investors, it's more than just financial growth. Through our unique investment opportunities, you can grow your portfolio while funding life-changing work. Your investment helps us provide mortgages to churches, an investment that sows into the future of the church in Canada. Together, we're investing for service, transforming communities, and advancing God's kingdom one church at a time. Stewards Canada. Church leaders and investors, visit stewardscanada.org for more information.
We're glad you're watching The Perspective, and I hope that little clip has certainly tweaked your interest. And here today with me is Joy Gomersall. And Joy is responsible for the daily leadership of Stewards Canada organization, which includes working with businesses and developing relationships between investors, borrowers, and third-party providers. What on earth does that all mean? Well, here's Joy to help us. Hey, Joy, welcome to the program. So glad you're here.
Thank you. Thank you. I'm so happy to join you today.
That's good. Well, you have a smile that's worth $1 million, so that just makes it all the much easier. Take a moment and talk to us about what this group Stewards is all about. And who are they?
Yeah, happy to. And I hope that video helps a little bit. I love it. Sort of encapsulates, who we are in a really quick, concise video. But at Stewards Canada, I like to, think about, we are a local missions organization. We connect evangelical Christian investors with the evangelical church in Canada who need mortgage financing. So Stewards Canada has actually been around since 1952 and financed well over 345 churches across Canada, which is really exciting to, continue on and be part of that legacy and history. So I would say the heart behind Stewards Canada really is to serve and enable and empower local churches to grow and reach their God-given mission and vision through mortgage financing. So we create a space for Christian investors to invest a portion of their financial portfolio towards kingdom work, which is really exciting. And again, that may seem, what does that, like you said, what does that even mean? I'd love to explain briefly how that works. So individuals, companies, churches, they invest their funds with Stewards Canada and they earn a rate of return on their investment. And in turn, Stewards Canada invests those funds into first charge church mortgages across Canada. So while you earn a rate of return on your investment, you're also investing into the growth of God's kingdom across our country. So your return really is twofold, and which is really exciting. We, the reality.
Jump in for a second. Can I
Oh, yeah.
jump in for so that's really exciting. I know next week we're doing several shows around the title "Business is Ministry," and man, we maybe have to have you come back and talk a little bit more, or at least we'll do a plug, because we're going to be talking to people who just think differently about God's kingdom. And I got blown away by a talk I heard in Dallas, Texas in January. And the couple were talking about the importance of making money so you could pour it back into God's work. And a lot of times we talk down about making money, saying, well, money is the root of all evil. So how would you jockey with that thought and get your thoughts on that?
Yeah, and I think we'll get into a little bit around stewardship, sort of all things, and our whole lives. But money is the root of all evil. I think the love of money is the root of all.
Oh, you nailed it. You nailed it.
Yeah, yeah. And so I think God gifts us with all different things and resources. Some of that is financial for some people in different capacities. And so, yeah, I would say that's the difference, though. It's the love of money that is the root of all evil.
So tell me more about Stewards. Started way back in the 50s. What was the brainchild? What was the impetus for it to get going?
Yeah, so this organization started in the Brethren movement. So a lot of individuals may be familiar with it who attended those assemblies. And, the organization was birthed out of, hey, there's a need. Banks, credit unions, it's difficult for churches to get funding. And so this organization provided an avenue, but, bridge that gap so that churches could have buildings and could make physical places for people to meet and to encounter Jesus. And so that's, again, that continues to be the heart of the organization. That's the whole purpose, of why we exist. It's very difficult. I come from the banking world, so I spent many years at a large financial institution in Canada. And so, I have an idea of how banks look at, nonprofits, churches, and in terms of wanting to lend to them. So churches become stuck. And, this is exactly why we exist. And it's why it's really important what we're doing at Stewards Canada. It enables us, like I said before, to support churches in their mission and vision that God has given them for their community.
Okay, so let's just go through this once again. So if I am a business person and I want to invest, let's say $100,000 in Stewards, am I going to get some money back for my investment?
Right. So this could be businesses, individuals, or churches can invest with Stewards Canada. So there's a couple different vehicles and avenues. So we have registered accounts. So, what you would see at your local bank or credit union, RSPs, RIFs, tax-free savings accounts. So we have those vehicles for individuals. And then individuals, businesses, or churches can be part of our non-registered bond program, which currently has 4.5% semi-annual return on it right now.
Okay, that sounds pretty good, especially with the state of our economical landscape.
Right. And, each of those registered, each of these accounts, they are invested in a pool of church mortgages. So you're investing directly in first charge mortgages of evangelical churches across Canada, which is exciting.
But you don't do private mortgages.
Private mortgages just to churches and parachurch organizations.
Okay. So if I want you to take the mortgage on my house, I got to call somebody else, correct?
You have to call somebody else. Yeah.
Okay. I got to call another friend.
Yeah, that's right.
Let's pick up on the name Stewards. What is behind that?
I think thinking of, stewards or biblical stewardship, that can seem like a really lofty idea, right? Like that can seem really, really big. And to me, at its core, stewardship is about faithfully managing what God has entrusted to us. So that's time, talents, resources, relationships, influence, using all of those things, all of those tools to serve others and advance God's kingdom. And that's, this name, Stewards, that is our desire, is to be a place where individuals can steward their financial portfolio in a way that honors God by investing with us. But we also, it's really important that as an organization, we steward well the investments that individuals are providing to us. And we also steward well those who want to borrow from us, that we are wise and discerning about the churches that we partner with in terms of financing them. So, the name is very significant to what we do on both sides with investors and with borrowers. And I think, the stewardship and practically being involved in stewardship, we all have the opportunity to participate in this kingdom work together through financial investment. Stewards Canada provides an avenue for Christian investors to be involved in this kingdom work that's, separate from their discipline of tithing, for example, or their local church involvement. And it's very practical. It's providing church mortgages. And these are not just buildings. When I think about it and I get to go and visit and meet these individuals, you're directly supporting ministry carried out in these communities that are changing people's lives, which is really exciting.
Love that. I was reading about it just the other day, that word steward in the Bible, in the book of 1 Corinthians, it says the idea of a steward is someone who's been given an entrusted responsibility and to take care of that. And what you've been talking about really is so exciting to think, hey, how do I steward what God has given to me? I want to come back in just a moment. We're going to unpack this subject even more with Joy, but right now we're going to take a short break. You're watching The Perspective. My name is Mike Sherbino, and if at any time you'd like to talk to somebody, you'd like someone to pray for you, we have an 855 number, 910-6297. Go there. There are people waiting to chat with you in at least 6 different languages. We want you to know that you're not alone. I'm going to be right back in just a moment. Hey, welcome back to The Perspective. Have you ever thought about this truth that your life, your time, your money, your gifts are a resource that God has given to you to use, and it can make a difference? Here with me is Joy, who represents Stewards Canada. And Joy, found it so fascinating what you've been talking about. And as a segue, we want to talk about stewardship. Probably about 6-7 months ago, I was with a dear friend who actually died later on the same day. We knew he was sick. He was a person of significant resources, and he was concerned about using his money and what was going to happen. And he's made this comment to me. He said, Mike, we've got to do more. We need to do more for God's kingdom. Because when you come to the end of it, you can't take any of it with you, can you?
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
Yeah, and I'm sure that thought goes through your mind a lot as you talk about stewards ministry and how people can participate in a greater cause for God's glory. Why is the message of stewardship so important? Especially, I know it's burning in your heart.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think stewardship, it's about acknowledging all that we have belongs to God. I think I love in Psalm 24, verse 1, it's so clear. The earth is the Lord's and everything in it. That truth, it's so clear. It should reframe our whole perspective. We are not owners, but we are caretakers entrusted with, what we just talked about, time, resources, finances, relationship. And I think this idea of stewardship, whether you're talking legacy, giving, or investing, is so critical for believers in particular, as it reflects what we believe about God's ownership and his authority in our own lives, right? And, the message of stewardship is so critical today because it causes believers to live with an intentional, eternal perspective and mindset in a very temporary world. It's not about, and I would add, it's not just about our resources, but about honoring God with our whole lives to bless others and to, further his kingdom. Sorry, go ahead.
No, I apologize. Just because that's really counterculture, isn't it?
Yes. Which is why it's difficult to do. I mean, I think it's hard to have that heaven mindset when we're living in a very broken world, right? That takes a lot of intentionality. and I think prayer individually on all of our parts. So, and I think legacy is faith in action, and that can take a variety of forms. In the case of Stewards Canada, that can be a practical financial legacy or partnership with our organization that impacts churches. That can also go beyond finances too, right? We provide a practical way to steward your financial resources, but I think that goes even to, if we think about the gifts we leave to our children or future generations or church family, that can be done through spiritual mentorship, examples of faith. Those are all part of our legacy as well, which are extremely important.
In my circles of reference, I'm talking to a lot of people who are saying, how do we invest in greater ways in God's kingdom? And it's boggling. I remember talking to a pastor who led a mega church in the States, and he was coming to speak at my church. And that was a humbling experience and a neat experience. But one of the stories that this guy shared was of a businessman who came to faith in Christ and started to understand the whole thing of tithing. His accountant thought that he was nuts, and this guy was worth so much money. And so he said to his pastor, he said, listen, I'm not looking for thank you notes or anything because of the money I give. Just once a year, would you sit down with me and tell me that I'm not nuts? Because everybody else thinks that I am. But he was just believing, hey, I'm going to honor God. I'm going to trust God so that something greater can happen.
Yeah, absolutely. And the tithing piece in particular, I love that verse in the Old Testament that I don't know that it says anywhere else. God actually says, test me in this, and will I not open the storehouses and, pour out more blessing than you can hold. And so, yeah, I just think that's very interesting, and it is a unique perspective. And I think, some people maybe do think we're a little nuts with that discipline, but, God honors that and he sees that. And I think, Stewards Canada, this provides an opportunity beyond that's the discipline and an obedience thing between you and God and at your home church. And, beyond that, and I had someone say to me, Stewards Canada is the beyond the 10%. And that's, a good way of putting it. So outside of your tithing to your home community and to your home church, this is, your financial portfolio, a portion of that. There's another church that I had the opportunity to visit, and you mentioned our website. So on our website, there's a stories tab, and you can see videos of some of these churches, see the building and hear more of their story. They're doing some incredible work in the Ajax and GTA area. So they were not able to get a mortgage through a regular bank, and we were able to bridge that gap for them. And the things that they were providing in their community, Christian daycare, VBS all summer, distributing gift cards for essentials to people in their community. They also did a renovation where they were able to get a commercial kitchen. And so they prepare food and provide food to refugees and people in need. So they are quite literally being the hands and feet of Jesus in their community. It's interesting. They have stories of families who send their kids to this daycare end up coming to church. They become part of the church community on a Sunday. So they really are meeting the practical and the spiritual and the physical needs of many families and individuals in Ajax and the surrounding area.
Joy, that's an incredible story. I want to thank you for sharing it. Unfortunately, our time is gone. Man, you're just getting warmed up, and I'm just getting warmed up. This is so exciting. You're going to have to come back again and talk to us. Thank you for being with us. Thank you for the amazing work that Stewards is doing and for how well you represent them. We appreciate that so much.
Thank you so much. Appreciate it.
You're watching The Perspective, folks, and if at any time you'd like to talk to someone or receive prayer, you can call 855-910-6297. We have people there waiting to pray with you, to encourage you, and to help you, regardless of what your situation might be. I'm going to be back in just a moment to share with you from God's Word.
Did you know you can stream our shows on demand? We are thrilled to announce the launch of our channel on Roku TV. You can now watch the Perspective shows anytime you like and navigate through a variety of playlists. How to find us? Simply search for the Perspective channel, where you will find our logo screensaver, and save it under your channels of choice. Don't miss out on new feature shows updated weekly to our playlists.
So I remember a time in my life when I was a teenager when I just felt so filled with hopelessness and brokenness. I had no one that I felt was a real friend and nowhere that I felt that I could turn. And at a desperate time in my life, as I was going through some of the court systems for some of the things I had gotten involved in, I stole a car and I ran away from home. Or my idea was to get across the country and get a job in British Columbia and go and see the world on a boat. And I didn't get very far, but in the back of that car was a book that introduced me to Jesus, and my life was radically transformed in that very moment as I understood that Jesus died on the cross for me, and that was when hope entered my life.
Will you donate 2 hours of your time? Crossroads Prayer Center is seeking people with a heart willing to join in the amazing work God is doing through prayer. Providing over 1,300 prayer interactions daily, Crossroads Prayer Partners speak biblical truth and words of life over people's needs. Join in God's transforming work through prayer and enrich your faith. Learn more at crossroads.ca/prayervolunteer.
Okay, so all of you who think you're fishermen, have you ever really caught a big fish? I've talked a lot about the fish that have got away, but I remember one time when our oldest daughter was 8 years of age, we were at a little rowboat, and we were just kind of having fun casting the line out. And she'd never caught anything. To be honest, I'd never really caught a big fish either. And all of a sudden, we hooked the big one. Now, folks, it wasn't that big. I mean, I couldn't go water skiing behind it, but it was a big fish. And we landed it together and we laughed. And of course, at that moment in a nearby boat was a taxidermist. And so I was just sitting meat and we had the fish mounted and stuffed. And we took the fish to all sorts of places. Wherever we would move, we'd often end up hanging it in the garage because it got a little battered. But wherever we went, the fish brought a lot of memories, a lot of fun, as we talked about the day we caught the big one. Well, we're in part 2 of our lesson today, where Jesus talks about going fishing. And he tells Simon Peter and the disciples, put your net out and take the boat and go out into the deep water. They didn't want to do that. They didn't want to do that because it was high time. It was noon hour, and fish don't bite at noon. If it's me, they don't bite my line at any time, but that's another story. But I want to just read again parts of the passage that we read yesterday. So if you have a Bible, turn to Luke chapter 5, verses 1 to 11, and we're just going to highlight a few things right now. Do you remember Jesus has been standing by the lake of Gennesaret. The people are all around him. He taught for a little while from the boat. And then while he was doing that, the fishermen, Peter and his buddies, were mending the nets. So then he turns to Peter and basically saying, can I use your boat? And he says, let's push out into the deep water. And Peter says to Jesus, he uses a term, he calls him master. We've toiled all night and haven't caught anything. And the idea of the word master creates some tension. It's certainly someone who's above you, someone who gives authority. And a lot of times when people are giving the orders, those of us who are having to receive them, in our heart, we don't really want to follow. We're wondering, does he even know what he's talking about? But they do that. And they go out at noon, even though it makes no sense. They cast the net. And as the story goes, they get a boat full of fish. And then their buddies with the other boat, they fill it up as well. You know, while most fishing stories have an element of exaggeration, this one didn't. The boats were so full that they began to sink. Folks, these were little canoes. Could be anywhere up to 25 to 27 feet long, probably weighed at least 2.5 tons. I'm telling you, as they rowed the boat out to deep water, they weren't singing, row, row, row your boat merrily down the stream. You know, no, it was tough work. They were sweating. And they had this amazing catch. Have you ever thought about that? Why did they do that? When they gave us Stewards ministry, why would people invest their money to further the kingdom of God? So that many people will hear the good news of Jesus. It's radical. It's different type of thinking. And that's what Jesus called the disciples to do. And when they pushed out into the deep water, when they threw their nets in and drew in the haul of fish, Peter looks at Jesus and his words change. He doesn't call him master, he calls him Lord. And it's a word where it conveys the idea, I want to be under your authority, not I'm resisting it. Because he realized in that moment that Jesus was who he said he was, truly the Son of God. And the beauty of the passage is that following this, Jesus calls these men to a life of discipleship, of radically following him. And he's doing the same for you and I today to say, will you lay it all down? Will you say yes? Will you follow me? And to all who do that, we experience the joy of a lifetime, and we catch fish like we never could have imagined. We become fishers of men.
Do you ever have questions in your life about who you are? Maybe you're in an identity crisis. We've all been there. It's part of the human experience. Do I have value? Do I have worth? What is my purpose in life? Well, I believe this is a very significant question to be answered. And I've written a book called Found. My name's Lori Hartshorn, and I want to invite you on a journey of discovering your true identity. I want to lead you not only through my book, but through an 8-part video series where you can even gather with others and learn and discuss together about the truth of our identity, the beauty of it, and the freedom that we find when we are connected to Jesus. See, I believe that we lost our identity back in the beginning in the garden, and I want to unpack for you how Jesus, he restores it all. You can find your true identity in him. So why don't you come with me on this journey of discovering your true identity, your value and worth, and let's grow and learn together. Found. You can know that what was lost, it's all been found in Jesus.
Have you ever thought about what it means to follow Jesus? When Jesus turned to Simon Peter and the other disciples, he said, follow me and I will make you fishers of men. But before we become involved in the greatest program on the earth, leading and introducing people to Jesus, we have to choose to first say yes to Jesus. Could it be that today God has been speaking to you in your heart and saying, will you follow me? Will you trust me? Will you surrender yourself to me? He says, I can clean you up from the inside out. That's why I died on the cross for you. But it starts by asking him. And so why don't you ask him today and say, Lord, will you be my Savior? Will you forgive me? Will you be my friend, my healer? I want you not to be my master. I want you to be my Lord. And when you invite Jesus to be the Lord of your life, things only get better. If you're praying that prayer today, write to me at theperspective.tv.